channel. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my videos. These series that I record are Rose Petals Revived. You can go back to my previous videos if you want to kind of find out why I started this series and why I decided to talk about this topic. Domestic violence is very passionate to me. I've been exposed to it at all stages of my life, whether it was myself or someone that I know, friends, family. I know a lot of women are going through it right now, even though it's not a popular topic that is discussed. You hear about it on the news, you see it on the news, you see all of these things happening on the news, but it isn't as highlighted, I notice. It isn't as discussed as it could be. They might have Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and that's the only time it's talked about. After that, we don't hear about it anymore. It's not ever any issues that are addressed on the ballot in terms of reform, laws, none of that. Everything else is addressed except for that. But one of the reasons that I wanted to do that, because when a person is going through, in the midst of it, during the middle of it, while they're going through it, that is the critical time. That's the time when they typically don't have a good support system. A lot of people don't want to talk about it, and sometimes if they're married, the spouse doesn't want them to be speaking outside of the marriage, or the boyfriend doesn't want them to be talking to their family members about what's going on. He doesn't want to be seen in a bad light, whatever the case may be. So they might not talk about it. They might act like everything is fine, or you might see them have other behaviors where they're acting out or displaying behaviors that you don't recognize, or maybe they come more withdrawn, or maybe they start drinking, or using other substances, or whatever that it is. And I was doing a lot of thinking about it, and I talked about this in a previous episode in terms of self-examination. And a lot of times when we address it that way, a lot of times people may think, well, they're blaming the person, because I know it's easy to say, well, why don't they get out? And why would they choose, to be in that? And how, there's always somebody sitting on the sidelines who has a lot to say, or who has an opinion about circumstance. However, they don't know, until you're in it, until you have no idea it came about, how easy it is to get out, all of the factors that come into play if they have children, because people still have rights in this country. So especially people that have children together, because if he's not harming the children, and a lot of times they might not have anything, they still give them rights, they still let them go see their children, and vice versa, you know what I mean? So there's a lot that goes into it. Do they have property together? So I mean, you could go down the list of reasons why maybe someone may stay in a situation longer than necessary, or to stay, in it. And so the self-examination stage, something that I discovered is, how does one end up in a controlling relationship? And number one, I found that typically the control for the person has been taken away at some point in their life. And I'm going to use my own case. Now, this video may be triggering, because there may be some topics that might be uncomfortable. People may have views. And I'm just going to tell you that on this channel, if you are trying to come and battle on this channel, you might want to join a debate team. Okay? This is not that. We're not doing that. Okay? This is a place where I'm open to discussion, open dialogue. It's a place where people can share their stories. It's a place where people can come and talk about things. That's what we're doing here, and we're looking to encourage, we're looking to examine, research. All of that is what we're doing here, so that people will not keep ending up in these situations, and then maybe we can get to the root cause. Because so far, it's continuing on. It's generational. I mean, it's on and on and on and on and on. And I'm just trying to figure out, like, at what point is it going to stop? I don't even know. But nonetheless, again, my own story. So my control was taken away from me as a teenager. As a teenager, I had a pregnancy. And unfortunately, because I was a minor, the choice was taken away from me. There was a lot of coercion, a lot of talk about not being ready, a lot of, and unfortunately in the Black community, there's a lot of promotion regarding terminations. There's, Planned Parenthoods and other things that are put in urban communities. And so this is promoted, this is talked to, about it. They push and push and push and push and push. And I know there's some people that support these rights and that sort of thing, but I still think that it should be the person's choice. And a lot of times they feel like, oh, this person is a child and they don't really know the dangers and how hard it's going to be and blah, 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 blah. And that's wonderful. And I get it. However, the thing about it is that the person that goes through it, that is something that they will never forget. The memory may be suppressed. They may not talk about it. They may not even think about it, but it comes back up. They'll never forget it. You know what I'm saying? And for me, when I started to study the Word of God, it convicted me. Okay, so I had to deal with that. You know what I mean? But at that time, I felt like, yes, I was a teenager, but I still wanted to go through with it. You see, and so that was my first experience where my control was taken away from me. Someone else decided that that's what needed to happen for me. And then as I went along, see, the precedent had already been set. So from then on, I just noticed different other aspects, other experiences where I allowed my control to be taken. I allowed someone else to be dictating my choices for me. And so it just goes on. So it is easy to see how I could end up in a situation where someone is controlling my movements, controlling what I say, controlling what I do, controlling where I go, controlling who I'm friends with, controlling who I see, on and on and on. So I can see how that could happen to somebody. And it's very detrimental. I know that people are out here fighting for choice, but it should be. And a lot of people can make an argument of this or that, in terms of termination. But if a person is of sound mind and they are clear about the decision that they are making and that they want, that's why, women are fighting for the rights of their own body because it's their body. You know what I mean? And so I'm not advocating for anyone to do anything because it's their choice. It's not for me to sit over here on my soapbox and be talking about what they should do or should not do. That's their choice. They have to live with it. You know what I'm saying? So some people end up going through the terminations and find that eventually they can't have any more children. Because there was some damage that was done to the womb. So, nonetheless, what I'm talking about though is that take a look and see in your life, whether it was a teenager, a young adult, grown woman, whatever the case may be, and try to take a look and see where the control was taken, where your choices were taken from you, because that's definitely a factor. It's definitely key to examine and take a look within self. And sometimes people don't want to look at self, and that's okay. But I love introspect. I love taking a look at myself and taking a look and trying to see because clearly there's a pattern here that I have set for myself. And the sad part about it is that when I was younger, I was such a giving person and giving of this, giving of that, and always looking to rescue people and all of these things, which is great. That's how God made me. But the problem with that is that I was a giver and never really a receiver. There are points where maybe I received a few things, but that's like a small percentage when I think of the totality of all of the giving that went on and the people that I encountered would be taking. Constantly taking something from me, whether it was my right to choose, whether it was, something that they knew that I would give them, felt sorry, they knew I would feel sorry and they needed something, whether it was borrowing money and never giving it back, whether it was coming and asking me for food when they were in a better position than I was. I mean, all of these things that I look at and take a look at and can see, so then I thought, well, dang, I probably set this example for my children, you see, because they watched me in this position. So now, I had to really combat that. Like, oh my goodness, are my children going to end up in a domestic situation? Are they going to end up being with someone who's controlling? Are they going to end up in that sort of situation where someone else is dictating their life for them? And they are not advocating for themselves, or they're not, they're afraid to advocate. They're afraid to speak up for themselves. They're afraid to demand their rights. You know what I'm saying? So this is what I'm talking about. And so it takes a lot of looking inward. And I know that we have counselors, and by no means am I a counselor. or anything like that. I'm not licensed, however, I've studied some courses and I'm learning as I go. However, the only thing that I can say is that a lived experience is the best teacher. So, as I have lived many different experiences, I can speak to these things. Now, mine is not an isolated incident. My experiences are not isolated. There are many people that have gone through the same thing. And so, all I'm saying is that take a look at that, because typically most women haven't been in just one abusive relationship. It's been more than one person. Now, they may have gotten away from the last person and then they ended up with somebody else, and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? Now, some people might do well, and they're like, okay, they had one bad situation, and then they find someone new, and they're like, great, and all is wonderful. You know what I mean? And maybe they were able to do that work and heal themselves inwardly. But the thing about it is, a lot of times people get with somebody new, but then they're still in an environment where they're still seeing things, and it's easy to fall back into that thing. You know what I mean? That's why we have all these serial marriages, divorce and married, divorce and remarried, divorce and there's all these different things. You know what I mean? And that's why there's this constant thing. And when you look back, and now it's getting younger and younger, teenage girls in middle school are in abusive relationships. They have some sort of controlling, and I'm like, these are little kids who are in controlling relationships. The fact that they're dating at that age, that's a whole nother topic, but nonetheless, it is what it is. But they're in these controlling relationships where the person is calling them all the time. Maybe that's their only friend. You know what I'm saying? So they're dealing with something. So they're clinging to this girl for dear life. You know what I mean? And so they're controlling them, and they're calling them and calling them. And when they want to do something different or hang out with their friends, and, if they don't like their friends, you know what I mean? And that's another thing that I had brought up before as well, sowing discord. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, you're falling out with your friends. All of a sudden, you're falling out with your family. All of a sudden, there's all this confusion that's going on. And then the only person that's right there with their cape on is that person. And you can't see. You're like, oh, nobody, because you get mad at those people. You're like, they deserted you, they abandoned you, and all I have is this person here. You know what I mean? But that person is the person that's hurting you the most. So I am just encouraging people. I'm encouraging women to really, really, really take a look and figure out where you lost control. Where was your choice taken away from you? Because that is definitely at the top of the list of self examination. We have to figure it out. We have to figure it out, because I'm gonna tell you, I be angered. I It's like a boiling water inside of me every time I hear of a story and see where some woman, some young girl has died at the hands of some man. Even the story recently in St. Louis where the 25-year-old man done stomped on a 15-year-old girl, a 25-year-old man, not a boy, a grown man, then stomped on a 15-year-old teenage girl. And I understand people don't want to get involved, because, somebody might, whip out the gun, because that's what people do now in the cowardly way. I don't know anything about that. We come from an era where, guns weren't on the scene, and you had to do what you had to do to defend yourself. You know what I mean? But nobody was, whipping out guns. That didn't come on until later. We started to see that later on when I was coming up. But before that, you had to get on out there. And you might win some and you might lose some. And oh, it is what it is. And you just keep going on. Life isn't over for you. You keep on, you make it, whatever. But the thing about it is that clearly, so then they put in the article that he had a support system and all these people were rallying behind him. Are you rallying? Okay, this man is going to have some children and probably a daughter if he doesn't already have one. And what are you going to do when that happens to her? What are you going to say? Hmm? Are you going to be rallying behind that man? Hmm? Y'all at the courthouse and everything? And I'm not saying that people don't that get in trouble don't need support, but if you don't tell them that they're out of order, if you don't tell them that they're out of line, you're patting them and giving them hugs and oh my goodness, and then you try to make it seem like he didn't really do that when the man, you know what I'm saying? Like, are you kidding me? And then he's apparently supposed to be working with girls at some other entity. I don't really know. This is what they reported. So allegedly, this is what they said. Okay, but all I'm saying is that he said that he was getting involved trying to protect his sister. Well, she can't put her hands up for herself. Hmm? Because that's what it should be. I mean, no one is provoking it. Nobody wants violence. However, if two kids get into a conflict, they got to work it out. You know what I'm saying? No grown man and nobody's mama should be coming over there, putting their hands on another kid while the other kid sits in the background like, they feel satisfied and, all this gratification that the adults then came and resolved all their problems for them. But all this promoting of violence against women and patting a brother on the back and whoever, that's ridiculous. It's out of line. It's out of line. And like I say, see, when it happens close to home, when it hits your home and on your door, you be singing another song. It's out of line. But clearly, perhaps, I don't really know, but typically when people are in support of this behavior, it's typically because they're probably already going through it themselves, have been through it, they don't see anything wrong with it, you know so then it just, these are the people that are, constantly keeping the ball rolling. This is the people that are constantly, got the cycle going. That's why the cycle continues. Don't try to make a person look good after the fact. You know what I'm saying? They didn't care while they was there doing whatever they was doing. They didn't care then. It was all big and bad till you get in court. See, now you want to be singing another song. Keep your hats to yourself. Because you could say whatever you get. If you was really protecting your sister, you would have told you and your sister to come on and you would have went and left. What protection are you providing stomping her? And not, she was already down on the ground, apparently. Allegedly, she was already down on the ground. And the person is socking her in her face. The child had a broken nose and all types of injuries. So, what are you really protecting her from? What protection are you really providing? You know, I'm not falling for it. This is madness. This is madness, and I'm going to be talking about these things. And people can say whatever they want. And like I say, we're not here on this channel, don't people be trying to think that they're going to try to, if you are really out here want to argue somebody down about violence against women, then we need to be taking a closer look at you. So if you want to put yourself out there and be the champion for it, you go right ahead. But it makes people look at you with the side eye. So, nonetheless, self examination is key so that we can stop ending up in these situations and that we can have our own minds. Like I say, in marriages, submission, that's a different. Controlling and submission are two different things. When you're controlling somebody's every move and you want them to do what you say, and, you're pumping fear and all this other stuff, and you don't want them to have a mind of their own and think for themselves, even though that's what God gave them. If we was all attached like identical twins to each other and we're just walking replicas, then there would be nobody different. There would be no need to multiply. If anything, they could just start making us and we'll just be robots. But every person has their own mind. Every person has been raised a particular way. Each person has their own parents or whoever raised them, guardian, whoever it was. So they have their own minds and thoughts. And if they were on their own at a particular point, there are different morals and values and things that they were taught. And then, you get with the person and then all of a sudden they want to change that, even though those are the things that they may have been attracted to you for. You see, they like it during the dating phase, the beginning, and then somewhere along the way it takes a turn and now they want you to be somebody else. And that's really where the tug of war comes in, because now you want me to be like a Barbie doll where you dress me up and pose me and, stick me over here and be what you think I should be. And that's not how it works. That's not how it works. Each person is an individual. Each person has something to contribute to a relationship. You know, people are gonna opposites attract. You know, there's all types of sayings they have for it. But everyone has differences in how they feel about things. No one, you might have similar interests, and then you have interests where you might disagree on certain topics. You're not going to agree on every single thing, you know. But a lot of that too also comes from the idea of, you know, entering into premature relationships, shacking and all of these other things. So anyway, I just want people to take a good look because we're gonna have to figure this out, ladies. We're gonna have to figure it out at some point because this is starting to get ridiculous. I mean, we just gonna fill up the cemeteries. They're gonna have to start building some more cemeteries. I mean, they have to do that anyway. But I mean, it's gonna be a bunch of us in there. You know, kids left behind with no parents. Now they're in foster care or they end up getting with somebody else because they don't think anybody cares. You know what I mean? Anybody got time or whatever the case may be, or no one's having real conversations about these behaviors or even telling their own story. There's a lot of women that have stories that they've been through, but a lot of times they don't talk to their girls about it. They don't have open dialogue about how they felt, what they went through, what they experienced. You know what I mean? Even if they flee from it and get out, they don't talk to the children about it. Some people do and some people don't. But I think it's an important conversation to have, so that they can see the error in the whole thing and see that that is not a healthy situation and that is not something that you want for them. So anyway, it's just food for thought, something to think about. I'm hoping that you turn on notifications, subscribe to my channel, like and share. A lot of times I'll have information down in the description box, thoughts for the day and things like that. So I hope to see you again. Thanks for stopping by and have a great day. And water your rose. Water your rose.